right, welcome to Masters of Marketing. Today's April 13th, 2020, and we are still in quarantine. I am Bryan Colligan. That is Ross Gates. We got Jody. We got somebody else here in the building.
We got Michael in the house.
Michael in the house. I'm not going to show the attendees on the shared screen. We got more attendees. We got Daniel Miller. Daniel Miller back again. Awesome.
Hey.
Daniel, if you want to talk, I just brought you into the talking place if you want to join. All right, so today I got some interesting things to talk about. I got some ideas that are not necessarily like unpopular opinions, but let's just start with something that is pretty popular. Sometimes you want to understand things on how they relate to each other, and I think one of the main things is marketing versus growth. Been watching a bunch of videos, inspiring videos over the weekend, and when I look at marketing versus growth, when I think of marketing, I think of storytelling at scale, communicating at scale. And when I think about growth, I think about loving your customer until they need you. Now what this means is that you need to get your customer hooked on you. And the easiest way to get somebody hooked on you is to love them, take care of them, pay attention to them and their needs. Now, if you're doing that on a one-on-one context, that's sales, right? That's the whole relationship building, understanding, being empathetic with a customer and loving your customer. And when I say that, I don't mean like, oh, you should be nice to your customer. No, like you should do whatever you can possible for your customer at scale until they absolutely need you. Now, I'm saying this because we're going to go into like a lot of different pricing and pricing strategies today. How to use freemium, and some unpopular opinions about what's going to happen to all software eventually, or bad software or good software. All software eventually gets better and then it gets replaced. And maybe I should just start with the unpopular opinion and then I'll reiterate it later. Let me start with the unpopular opinion. All SaaS, all cloud, all software trends to zero. Now, I thought I was the only single person with this opinion. It turns out, like doing some research over the weekend, that other people actually feel the same way. And it was in Profitwell. So a lot of references to Profitwell today and their pricing guide, their freemium, and Patrick Campbell. This dude is the Leonardo da Vinci. He is the Michelangelo of pricing and pricing your SaaS, and the amount of research and data that they pump out is just crazy. So, you know the software we're building right now, Ross?
Yes, I do. Very well.
Okay, guess what it's going to be eventually worth?
Nothing, but it's going to be engineering as marketing or something else?
No, eventually it goes to zero. All SaaS goes to zero. So this is actually not my idea. I just actually borrowed this from a different concept, which was an article a couple years ago called All Cloud Goes to Zero. And it started with like the idea of these different USB drives. Like it used to be like $100 for a 1 megabyte USB drive. Then it was like $100 for a 10 megabyte USB drive. And then for a gigabyte and a terabyte. I don't think they actually make them in terabytes, but whatever, you get the point. Did they make 1 terabyte USB drives? That's crazy.
For sure.
Crazy talk, Ross. Ross, better watch out for the media. They're going to eat you up. Gobble, gobble.
I'm ready.
All right. So the 1 terabyte USB drive for whatever, $100, doesn't really matter. Then you had to switch to the cloud. And at first, like your cloud drive was like $100 for a gigabyte. And then it was like $10 for a gigabyte. Right now I'm paying for an extra terabyte on Google Drive. For 2 terabytes on Google Drive, I'm paying $2 per month, right? So the trend of cloud is that as we like jam bits and bytes together, the value of the cloud software like trends to zero because it becomes massively cheap. So they basically have to charge almost nothing. The value is in the sharing. And so they have to come up like Box and Dropbox and Google Cloud have to come up with these schemes where they're starting to like overlap. So now if I share a document with you, Ross, or Jody, and we share these slides, these slides become part of your drive. They only need to save it once, but however many people that they share it with, it's all part of their quota, even though they need to store it once. So they had to completely revolutionize and change the business model. But when I think about it from an individual, I'm like, oh, wow, like I don't have to pay next to anything. So they're actually charging, if I share this out, this slide deck out with like 10 different people, like they're getting 10x the value of that one-time storage because they're sharing it with 10 people, and they charge them all part of their quota just to get $2 a month. Dang. Okay. So there's a couple things in there. So let's go back. Marketing is communicating at scale, right? So Dropbox, Box, Google Cloud, and S3. When you're marketing, you need documents, you need collateral, you need media, you need images, you need slide decks, you need ways that people. I used to work in the finance industry, and there's only two ways that people in finance really communicate. One is emails. Oh, sorry, three ways. Excuse me, I'm wrong. Three ways to communicate: emails, PowerPoints, and PDFs of PowerPoints converted into PDFs. Right? So and you need a place to store that data. I had something else interesting to say about this.
Can I actually back up to
Yeah.
you're saying that like Dropbox will tend towards zero because, the law of doubling and it's cheaper to store stuff. Is that
Yes,
true
Moore's law.
of, Moore's law. Is that true of softwares though, that just consistently do well? Like an email sending platform that still sends emails and does it better? Like, sure, maybe as the mode of communication changes in 5 years, 10 years, it'll trend towards zero. But it's not exactly the same principle. Can you talk about that?
Cool. So the active user on the platform is worth more than the cost of running the software. It's hands down. Like it's this book by Jeff Jarvis. Jeff Jarvis, what was it called? What Would Google Do? Boom. All right, this is a book I read years and years ago. And essentially that, I'm sorry, one second. Okay, so years and years ago, Jeff Jarvis wrote this book, What Would Google Do? And the concept is that, so sort of, okay, I'm going to backtrack on myself for a split second. There are highly specialized softwares that you can build for like 1 to 2 clients that you're always going to have that. But we're not talking about things that scale that you're going to have thousands of people on that software. There's people that build custom software in their home to open up their windows because they want it on a particular privacy underneath a VPN. And they're going to have individuals who essentially are always going to want custom software. And so when you think about that's a very niche product. When you think about search or this concept of what would Google do, I'm going to take this 300 page book and distill it into one thing. You basically give it out for free, like, so you can charge for something else. Like, this is what I talked about, like loving your customers at scale. It's like, get them to their solution and give them what they want for as close to free as possible, so you can charge them for some other valuable option, because having a user on search is more valuable than running the software to provide the software for that search. I think you're on mute. I see you.
Oh, yeah, I was on mute. Daniel also has some input on this.
Cool.
Can you take it away?
Hey, guys.
Hey, Daniel.
Let's see. I don't know if you can see me or not. But yeah, happy to see you guys. Based on your question, I can give you guys some direct feedback in regards to the email marketing world specifics. And one of the problems that we saw there is exactly that. Like, people keep expecting more and more of the software for free. And it's something like, where do you draw that line? And I agree with Bryan 100% in regards to, it's all about finding something else that you can charge for, whether it's a service, a transaction fee, things like that. And, with companies like MailChimp, where they are really focused on data, it's really interesting and really hard to kind of compete with that. So I don't know if it's absolute zero, but people expect, think of what we have today, right? Software that we have today. 10 years ago, we'd be blown away with this kind of software. But the apps that we download, like who downloads an app on their phone that is more than $5? Really, no one does that, right? Because they don't expect to pay for anything. So that's why there's so many ads in all of these apps and things like that. When it comes to email marketing specifically, I think a really good route to go through is actually becoming advertisers in email marketing. Let me preface this. If you have a newsletter, there are thousands of businesses that send newsletters out. Being able to have ads in your own newsletter that are related to the content that you have, I think is an excellent way for an email marketing company to add revenue to their business without having to charge the client anything. On the contrary, the client makes money with them. So those are the kind of ways that software has to think, because I agree with you. We expect more for nothing. We want it to work perfectly. And businesses that are in software are having a hard time to try to figure out, what's that formula that we can make so it's a.
Oh no, I think we lost Daniel. Maybe we lost me.
What is that formula where we can help the customer make money, but they don't want to pay us any money or any share of that? And where we can continue to provide more value without charging them anything and without costing us. And the advertising in the newsletter seems like a good example because we're making more value for the end user. It's not costing us anymore because the advertisers are actually probably paying us to put their advertisements in our newsletter. So it's an interesting question.
Can you rephrase the question again?
So the overall question was just...
Or distill it.
Yeah. So email marketing, those 10 types of platforms tend towards zero because everyone expects more for free, more in-app capabilities, more content, more newsletters.
I think that's all software. All software trends towards zero. All cloud trends towards zero, and all software will trend towards zero as well.
Exactly.
To be more exact, trend towards the cost of running the software.
Right. So the question is, how do you provide value that, this is a famous phrase where it's like, I can give you a bonus at work and it costs money out of my pocket and it makes you feel good. Mm-hmm. Or I can write a letter to everyone telling them how good a job you did and it doesn't cost me anything, but it still gives the same sentiment. So what can you do for your customer? Okay.
So, but wait a second.
It's what can you do to your customer that provides that extra value without costing more money?
What you just said is a perfect way to describe it, right? Like, do you want more money or do you want praise? There's people that want money. There's people that want praise. And for the individuals, like, it's based upon the individual. And as you build your tribe, right? That's another great book out there. It's called Tribes, and it's about when you build a product, you build a community, you build a tribe. And does your tribe want more money, or do they want praise, or do they just want to put on their Instagram that they're an entrepreneur, right? You don't know exactly what your audience wants until you kind of like talk to them, feel them out, and love them at scale. And why I'm saying loving at scale again is because when you understand your customer and you love them, then you understand what they want. Now, in a perfect world, you would give money to the one employee and, praise to the other employee. But now let's flip it on the customer. Like, maybe there's certain features that certain customers love or need, or certain amount of attention and feedback. And I've literally had clients in an agency like that just wanted to talk to me. I was convinced that they didn't even want the software product that they were building at all. They just wanted to talk to somebody smart. Like, it's crazy. Like, but when you love your customer at scale, or love each and every one of your individual customers, like essentially you're going to find out what they need and what problems that they have. And then you can be empathetic to that. Like getting back to the pricing or getting back to kind of the overall top. Did I answer your question?
Kind of. I'm just going to go into, so we're going to have like, just to distill what you said.
Yeah.
I just interviewed a speaker this morning and we're probably going to have him on in a couple of weeks. And he said this amazingly, which is a lot of people use demographics to segment their audience into like 12 different sections and then market to them based on what they do. But really what you should do is A/B test to everyone as though they're exactly the same and figure out not who they are, but how they're going to buy. And if one person buys because they trust security more and the other person buys because they trust being able to talk to you more, then that's loving them at scale. That's how you should communicate with them from now on. You should actually find out a little bit about them and then bucket them based on what they care about. So I don't know if that answers the question either, but it's the same direction.
Yeah, what you were talking about was essentially like, what is it if the commoditized cloud feature is free, what can you give that individual on top of that commoditized feature to then have them desire your product even more? And I think in the context of email marketing, Daniel was talking about email marketing. You were talking about email marketing. I think Substack is a great example. This is a email marketing platform that on its cover should be the same as a MailChimp. But what they do is they embed in very easily monetization model where they charge the subscribers of the email like $5 a month, $49 a month for a petition. Holy crap. That's like a lot of money. Like, what do you spend $49 a month on right now, like for reading? Like nothing, right?
That's a lie. That's a lie. 3 books per month on Audible.
Do you? I don't. That's awesome. Congratulations. You're a better reader than I am. But anyways, like these things are like $5 a month to get access to these people's ideas, right? So these are thought leaders, and I think it's an amazing concept because what they did was they took normal email marketing, they took Patreon, they slammed the two together. So Patreon isn't good enough. MailChimp isn't good enough. Substack is the combination and the overlap of the two of Patreon and MailChimp. And a lot more people who could have placed this together themselves decided that Substack is better because it does it for them in a quicker, higher velocity type of way. And so that's one thing that you can do that, the UX and a higher velocity of value is another thing that you can do to take your commoditized software and make it even better than what's out there on the market. So like for an email platform, velocity may be, can I send more emails? Can I get higher deliverability? Can I easily make the time that I spend on the quality of the email higher using your platform than another platform? That's why they built all those email templates. Higher, faster, stronger, higher quality, higher click-through rates. That's why we put video images with a play button inside the emails that we did on Alpha Voice originally, because we saw an 8 times like click-through rate. Open rate didn't change, but we saw an 8 times higher click-through rate. That means it would be like 8 times higher likeliness that people would engage with your product or service. Like it has to be a jump just by putting a picture in the email. So there's always added value that you can put on the commoditized product.
Now that we've gone down this strain of free email, making platforms better because they're going to trend towards zero, do we have other examples of this in other markets that you were going to talk about?
Yeah. Trend towards zero. It's completely absurd what I'm about to say, but Salesforce, right? Salesforce, it took me 2 weeks to reverse engineer all of Salesforce's table structure, database, and APIs, right? That's it. 2 weeks. Like if Salesforce is about the data, the CRM, the data storage, the APIs, essentially it's not, right? That's not what it's valued. They're selling $10 million plus contracts to whole entire organizations, replacing SAP and PeopleSoft CRMs and, Oracle systems for Salesforce. And they're going from like $100 million installations down to $10 million installations, which is crazy in and of itself. But it's not the technology. It is the network. The reason why you buy Salesforce is because all your salespeople already know Salesforce. The education level and the switching cost is next to zero to place in Salesforce. They created a whole community around it in terms of, if I know Salesforce, I can easily go from job to job to job as salespeople. Salespeople then want to know what they already know so they can start running their playbook right away. Salesforce has a community of apps. If everybody knows how to run it and everybody knows how to run their apps, they can run their playbooks. They can run their sales playbooks right away. And I think that's the key. It's not the technology or the cloud. It's the growth recipes, the sales playbooks that they know how to run, that the switching costs are really reduced. And so they can have that higher velocity, right? There's no thought process in like, oh, I need to learn a technology. Most people already know it. There's no switching costs. Run the playbook.
So when they switch, they run the playbook. You're saying Salesforce can become a great big company because their network expands, but once they've hit their entire addressable market, that'll just start to decrease as people want the same technology for less money, and they are already part of the network, so there's nothing more that they can be given.
Let me rephrase the question. Why does Salesforce stick around, right? And why does a new entrant come in, and how does this associate to the total addressable market? I think there's 3 questions in there. So the first question is, attacking the total addressable market. Everybody knows Salesforce. They're already there. Salesforce yearly raises their prices, right? So every year they're raising their prices. And now if you have a 100-person sales team, like that may be like thousands of dollars or $10,000s of dollars, like a year per license increase. We are now in a down market. You cannot raise your prices and your annual subscription rate like you did every other year. Like people are cutting like 20-25% of their sales force like that, gone, which reduces their pricing rate. But it's not about growth at all costs. Right now it's about cost reduction strategies, and Salesforce is raising their prices. I don't know if they're doing that in the downturn right now, but essentially they are. Total addressable market they've hit. The only thing you could do in the total addressable market when you've hit it is increase your prices and start to go up market and sell more value. So they have to reduce their prices and start buying their companies and buying the plugins and then plugging those plugins in, right? So essentially they have to start charging for around the what would Google do? They would charge around the perimeter. Maybe data services, telephony services, all of the plugins that through the years there's 18 or 20 different telephony services, TalkDesk and Gong and Chorus AI that are on their platform. Their strategy should be whatever the most popular one is, kick the other ones off, charge for that telephony service, and here's the telephony service by Salesforce. And now you can upsell that. And so if you want telephony service combined with the Salesforce CRM, that's how you do it. So you start upselling around the margins, you reduce the platform price, but you start to upsell everything else and purchase like that. So there was one more question in there. If they stick to, and they're not quick enough and agile enough to change their strategy in a market downturn, somebody's going to come out with a free CRM. And this can be shown in the last downturn. HubSpot came along. If it wasn't for the downturn in 2008, you would not have HubSpot, because people wanted a way to, their marketing budgets were slashed in 2008, 2009. HubSpot came along in the CRM space, and they go, oh, well, you don't have to pay per license. You just have to pay per person that you're targeting. And if you pay for a person that you're targeting, you don't need to target tens of thousands of people. Just target, 100 people or 1,000 people. You don't need 100,000 people. And so what ended up occurring was they charged per target versus user license, and they changed the model. So those are the 2 standard CRM models now: license per user and license per contacts in your CRM. And Drift and Intercom, they all charge based upon price per contact in your CRM.
I think you answered the question by saying that for Salesforce, the base system itself will depreciate. And so you have to
Yes.
add more things on the outside. And back to kind of this email thing, like how do you add more value that doesn't cost you that as much money? During a market downturn, you purchase the companies that are strategic to you so that you can incorporate them and make a lot more money off of them. So I think that was the answer to the question. If Salesforce is depreciating, how do they continue to charge more money? And it's they offer more on the periphery.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. We got 5 more minutes. I can answer questions or I can keep going.
We don't have any questions right now, so I'd keep going.
All right. Should we go past the 30-minute mark?
We can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Because I got freemium and annual versus monthly, or we can save it for another time.
Let's talk about freemium.
All right, we'll end on freemium. We'll talk about annual versus monthly some other time. Well, I'm just gonna keep going.
Okay, go for it.
All right.
Make some awesome content.
All right, so the state of freemium. So I never really. Once again, a meme or a viral post is about the clarity of thought that somebody else has that you always felt, but they say it for you. And once again, I'm going to go back and refer to Patrick Campbell on the state of freemium. And the number one thing in this article, this is a great article. I think I have it. Boom. The state of freemium model, great for acquisition, not for revenue, right? So if we go back to the beginning of the conversation and you talk about marketing versus growth, and you talk about loving your customer until they need you, freemium is not a great marketing strategy. It actually depreciates the value of your SaaS or your software, because what you're basically saying is like, oh, we're going to give it to you for free and I don't really value it. So from a marketing position, it is not a great position to do a freemium model. But a freemium model is great for acquisition, and it's great for growth. And the purpose of a freemium model is to get people to the point in their experience working with you that you've given them enough value, you've given them enough attaboys, you've given them enough love until they're like ready to keep you around. Like, one of the things that you have to think about is like, not like how much money can I squeeze out of a customer? Like, how much can I give to the customer until my bank is about to break and I almost don't exist anymore? And then they are going to pay me. We have a customer right now who got on the phone with us last week and they were like, are you guys okay? And I'm like, yeah, we're fine. No, I mean, like, no, we're really, really worried about you in this market downturn. Like, I'm like, okay, like, no, we're good. We're like, all our clients are sticking around. We had to discount one client or whatever, but you know, like, one of our main clients was like, no, we really want you to stick around and exist. Dude, we've done our job, Ross. Like, that's what freemium allows you to do, is get to the point where the customer is so excited about you that they're afraid that you're not going to stick around, because that's how vital you are to their business. And if you think about it that way, then freemium may be a good acquisition strategy for you. But if your mindset to your customer is about how many pennies, how many nickels and dimes can I squeeze out of this customer, freemium's not a good acquisition strategy for you, because they're not necessarily going to have the upfront value to do the immediate upsells, right? So freemium is a long game where you want to incrementally give features or incrementally like take away features, and you need to really value those freemium customers. And I don't think it's right for us, even though we're doing it right now. And the reason why is we don't have a large customer support staff. We're doing it, but I think we should like cut it off and just do the hand-to-hand combat sales like we're doing right now within our own product. And, you know, as I talk through this, like, this may actually change some of the language on our website or the different trials that we have, or how we get people in the door, because a lot of the times, a lot of the freemium customers that we interacted with, or, you know, we did a campaign, you know, 6 months ago and we got a couple hundred signups and we're like, yeah, this is awesome, this is great, and then the churn rate was through the roof. The customer support clogged us down to like basically not do anything but be reactive to customer support requests. It was cool because it tightened up our product a lot, but it really wasn't helping us push forward in the product. And the requests and the information that we're getting, just like very basic educational stuff that we knew we needed to clean up on the website or whatever. But essentially, like, it can be very, very cumbersome for the customer success and the customer support that a freemium model will allow you for.
Hey guys, can I pitch in really quick on
Yeah,
the
sure.
freemium? Because again, you know, in the email world, the freemium and the MailChimp thing, I mean, that killed a lot. It didn't really kill it. What it did is gain traction for them. And what I want to say about freemium, with Benchmark, we actually switched to a freemium plan as well. Funny enough, we actually had a freemium plan well before even MailChimp had theirs. In the essence that we had, it was different. It wasn't up to 2,000 contacts. The freemium version that we had was, if you use our sign-up form and you put this on your website, anybody that signs up through that form, you can send emails to for free for life. That was the type of plan that we had. And it's something that, you know, it caught some traction, it got up there, but it wasn't adding the value. And what I want to say here is, when people try to start a freemium service, they focus too much on the freemium, and freemium isn't paying the bills. I think freemium can work, you know, and it's kind of like a startup business that becomes a billion-dollar business overnight. People see those stories, and let's say the truth. It doesn't happen overnight. That's years of trying. If it happens overnight, that's just, you know, that's one in a billion. But all of these things that we see about freemium, because that's how all the software is going, people just want to try to copy that because that's what everyone else is doing. And what I want to shine light here on is, freemium can work for you, but it's unlikely. And the biggest thing, that if you're thinking about doing something that's freemium, focus on where are you getting the money first, and then how can you make a freemium version of that. Don't do the opposite, because you'll get tangled. And what will end up happening is people will actually get mad because your freemium service is so good, and now you're trying to charge for a feature that you weren't charging for, that kind of stuff. And then it's a bad taste of mouth. So, you know, I really focus on, you know, who are your core customers? That's another thing, based on what you were talking about now, is most of the time, the more freemium it is, the more of a pain in the butt customer it is as well. They expect way more. They're calling you 10 times. They don't use chat. They don't use FAQs and things like that. And they expect all of that for free. So, you know, I'm not a believer in freemium. I have seen it work. I've helped customers make it work. But again, these customers focus first on their main business. Try to sign up to MailChimp right now, as, you know, with an actual business idea in mind. You can feel the product, you can test run it, and it feels like it's free. But once you actually try to do business, that you're making money, there's a paid feature, there's a paid that, there's a this, that. And it's a software that's built with so much, I guess, love for the customer, that it doesn't even feel wrong when they're asking for money, because they're helping you make money as well.
That's awesome. They're helping you make money as well. That's such a key phrase right there. Is like, if you're a SaaS business, you need to help your customers make money. Like, you need to be like their best supporter. And Ross, to pull it together, and I think it's I think we let's just end there, because you were saying, like, how do you help this customer with a commoditized platform, something like cloud? How do you know what to add on top? And at the end, you need to help your customers make money with the software that you build, and figure out how they can do it faster, stronger, higher quality revenue. And that's essentially what you need to do to make your customers successful and to love them at scale. And I think it's a great place to wrap up. So marketing is communicating at scale. Growth is about loving your customer until they need you. And one way to do it is to help them make a lot of money with your software.
And if you're going to go freemium, don't charge for doing more of the same, but charge to take the next step, when it will help them immediately make money. Cool. Let's wrap up there. Thanks for attending another Masters of
Daniel,
Marketing.
thank you.
Daniel, thank you.
Ross.
Brian, thank
you
you.
guys. You guys are great.
Thanks.
All right, guys.
See you tomorrow.
Until next time.